Hello everyone and welcome to another Hallelujah Caesar review. Today I'm reviewing Blockness. This is a game published by Blue Orange Games and designed by Laurent here and illustrations by Simon. Illustrations here primarily, the artwork here is just the box itself, which looks really cool. They've got kind of the UV finish, I think is what they call that, on the box. Looks really cool. This is a game for 2 to 4 players and is a very quick game, 15 minutes. And Blockness is almost it's really a three-dimensional, version of Blockness in a way, and that aspect. So you're going to be placing pieces onto the board to try to block your opponents, and placing pieces so that you can ensure that you can place another piece on your next turn. But let's go ahead and show you what comes in the box itself. So there are a set, there's actually 2 sets, I think the other one was in French, of the rules here. As far as the rules, everything's explained really well. Didn't have any issues understanding the game, so it explained everything really well. It has some good examples and illustrations, and also at the end of the book there's an expert variation which changes the game feel quite a bit with only a slight rule change, and I'll explain that as well. So great instruction booklet comes in the game as well. So then you open it up, and this is actually where you will be playing out the board here. Here's the lock or the lake. Yeah, so you'll notice some different color variation on the board itself. The board is really nicely made. The kind of illustration, look of the lake is done really well. We have these little peg holes, and they are really well done. Everything fits in there well. We'll show you that here in a second. The other side you'll see is just black there, but you'll see the insert here to keep the pieces. Some of the pieces may kind of carry over if you have the box on its side, but really not a big deal. Very simple insert, but works well. And you'll see here they have holes in the insert as well, so as you place the board here and you're placing pieces, those line up with the holes on the board so that you don't have any issues there. You do want to make sure as you're playing the game that you have everything flat in there. You don't necessarily need to take pieces out, but if some are kind of sitting high, you may have some issues as you're putting in pieces. Not a big deal. Usually you just need to kind of shift them down, or you could just pull all the pieces out of the box before you play. But usually that isn't necessary. And so, getting to the other components here, you have 4 sets of pieces for your little sea monsters here. And they vary a little bit for the different ones. So each one has like a starting piece. And just to show you, this is the starting piece for purple. It's actually, I believe, the longest one. And here's the starting piece for black. You'll see this one is actually much shorter. And but it's actually pretty easy to tell the starting pieces from all the other ones because of the height. So all the starting pieces start with this very low, sorry about that very low profile piece, right? And so you'll put a head piece on one and the tail piece on the other. The pieces here just have this little peg and so the peg just fits in. All the pieces here have that same hole there so that you can move the head and the tail as you place these on the board. Okay, so how does the game actually work? The components, just to finish up the components, these are really just well made. There's some texture on them, you can kind of see that. The pieces, just well made. There was, I think, one piece, I think it was the orange tail or something that seemed to come, was really, really loose compared to some of the others. But it works really well still. And so very happy with the quality of these. These are just a plastic, but they have some texture on them, right, to provide that detail for the different ones. Let's see if I can get this to focus there. Just close up on the head and the tail piece there. Okay, so very, very cool pieces. And let's go ahead and show you kind of the gameplay here. So the youngest player always starts here, and go ahead and place it. So if we were playing a 2-player game here, we're gonna go ahead and play only in this darkest region right here, to confine the space. So I think that works really well, making it a more, limited type game. Yeah, so really works well, I think, as far as the player scaling. So 2 players, this darkest region, have to keep all of the peg elements. You can't go anywhere other than the pieces here in the darkest region. And a 3-player game, you can include this next kind of section, and in a 4-player game, you're gonna play with the entire board. So after everyone's placed their starting piece, which again is the lowest profile one in the set, and there's a good reminder here, but I think it's pretty easy to find those pieces. So there's a picture of all the starting pieces, and which are meant to be of different sizes there. So on your turn, you're gonna look at all of your remaining pieces here, and you have the ability to place any of them. You can choose any of them to place, and you're going to place the piece here in one of 3 spaces. And so if black, purple went first and then black went here, it is the spaces which are orthogonally adjacent to your head or tail, this one space right here. So right in front, to the left, or to the right. And so purple here with black there, black's blocked one of their 3 spaces that they can go from, okay? Now there are some rules and restrictions here. One of those being that you cannot place a piece over someone's head, okay? Head or tail. They need to be able to pull that off. And beyond that, that's just a rule. You can never place a piece that goes over someone's head, okay? So I could, however, choose to place a piece like so. And so if I'm placing it from here, adjacent to my head, I would go ahead and pick up my head and then place it on the other end of this. And so now I've kind of doubled back on myself there. Okay. And then it would be black player's turn, and they can go from there. So they could, now one of the things I mentioned you cannot place a piece that goes over an opponent's head or tail. You can do that for your own piece as long as that piece is going to be moved. So if you'll see here, I have 2 spaces that I can go for my tail, and I could put this piece right here to go over all of these, and I would then move my tail to there. So you can see very quickly that there's this 3D element to it, which is really, really cool. It just really looks nice on the table. Yeah, so one of the other restrictions, however, is you cannot play pieces that go underneath other ones, okay? Even if it's physically possible to do so, you cannot do that. So let's say, now this isn't a legal move because it's not close, but so if I wanted to play a piece, even though this physically fits underneath this, you can also not play pieces that go underneath other pieces. They have to either go around them, or over them as you move around the board. Okay. So, yeah, it's really, really, that's the gameplay. You continue playing pieces until you cannot play a piece anymore, and then the next player would go, and you keep going until, you know, you have one player, basically, or you keep playing until everyone's played all their pieces that they can, and then you look at any remaining pieces, and the player with the fewest pieces is the winner. Now, I do like the tiebreaker that they've included in the game as well. You'll see all these different pieces here. I'm just going to kind of put them into the board, have some different heights to them. And so you need to be aware of that, you know, if there's different situations, even if you can kind of place a piece, you know, physically into a spot, you can't play a piece of the same height, you know, over another one. So like if it was the same height here, I couldn't play it on this edge, even though it slopes down and I can kind of fit it. No, that doesn't work. So it has to be, you know, a higher to go over there. But the tiebreaker goes to whoever's head is the highest, right? So if we're looking at the board, and it ended, you know, something like so. We look at, you know, whose head is the highest, and that would be the winner. So that is the gameplay of Blockness. Really, really enjoyed this one. The rules are very simple. My two kids, both really, really enjoy this game and understand the rules and some of that strategy really quite well. And so great family game, great game for kids as well, as they're trying to make their sea monster here the biggest and the longest, trying to take over as much space on the lake and get as many pieces as they can out onto the board. Now, an interesting variation, as I mentioned, included on the back of the rule book here is this expert variation. And basically, instead of, you know, these closest 3 segments or 3 holes next to the head and tail, you actually are required to go 2 out from the head and tail. And that really kind of changes the mindset and the gameplay a little bit, because a different feel, right? Because you get so used to those 3 spaces and being able to set yourself up so that you can continue to move your pieces around the board. And going 2 spaces is really, really interesting. And you have to think about it a bit more, because you can find yourself very restrictive, especially if you have pieces here, you know, on the edge of the board. You know, from this tail piece, if I were playing that expert variation, this head, from there, I can't go in this hole. I can't go in this hole in a 2-player game. And I can't go, so I can only go basically here in this hole right here. The tail, however, is this one and this one. And so it changes the mind of thinking, gives the game a nice kind of fresh new way of looking at it, even though, again, a very, very slight rule change, right, of just moving 2 spaces out instead of 1. And that's Blockness. I really enjoy the game. Great quality components and very quick game for, great for families, kids, but a lot of strategy for adults as well. If you like Blockness, which is that two-dimensional laying tile game where you're moving and you're trying to lay out all of your pieces, or the most pieces that you can. Very similar, feel to that, and trying to set things up, trying to block people, and trying to place your pieces so that you ensure you can continue to play pieces. So a lot of good strategy to this as well, and I love that 3D element. It just looks really, really cool. The expert variation as well, you're playing 2 away. That just makes the sea monsters look like they're going into the water a little bit deeper. I just think the aesthetic is really, really cool, but beyond the aesthetic and the quality of the components and the look of the game itself, the gameplay is really, really great. So that is how Lou sees it.